Good morning, gorgeous. I got a channel message. Growing up in the 90s was powerful. I was raised on ska and gangster rap, and the angst was palpable. Rage Against the Machine was popular, Marilyn Manson. We were reaching into new territory in a period of rebellion that is still sprouting to this day. So this is a bit of an unconventional message for me. All my messages are pretty unconventional, but this one is different than most of the ones that I post, and I channeled this at least a month ago. And I've been sitting on it until Spirit told me it was time, and I will admit there's a part of me that was resisting delivering this message today just because it is so different. But I also recognize that we're heading into a very new era. A lot of you know that today Pluto went into Aquarius, and it's supposed to represent the beginning of a very different era, paradigm, shall I say, where a lot of things that we've seen in our collective for many years are going to start being overturned or shifted. And so I think it's necessary to look at where we've come from and remember that there have been many, many times when the paradigm has shifted in a really dramatic way that has shaken up everything around it. And for those of you that weren't alive during the 90s, or for those of you that don't really remember because you weren't really tapped into popular culture, there was a lot of angst and rage for good reason. There was a lot going on. I was a child, I'll be honest. I don't know a lot about the politics of that time, but I do remember what it felt like to be alive and to feel unseen and undervalued by society for being, one of the forgotten ones, one of the people that fell through the cracks. And I was listening to Ani DeFranco and getting really passionate and destructive. There was a lot of destructive energy. And destructive doesn't have to be a bad thing. When you have a foundation built on something faulty, you need to destroy it first before you can build something long lasting. And I think at that time we were feeling the angst of our parents. It's like they kind of passed it down to us and we carried it forward. And there were so many new things to feel angry and upset and afraid of. And I'm saying all of this not to freak you out, but to remind you of where we've come from. We've come from a very tumultuous, several decades. Very tumultuous. And this is an extension of that, except for the rage part is being transmuted into love, is what I'm hearing. And instead of feeling this need to rebel against everything and everyone, there's a feeling of wanting to rebel against the things that are keeping us tied down, but not everyone else. There's this feeling of wanting to set yourself free from these chains that we felt have been holding us back, holding us down. And even though I was a young person during most of what I'm talking about, I'm an old fucking soul, a really old soul. And I was hanging out with people 10, 20, 30 years older than me when I was 11, 12, 13. And that's not even an exaggeration. That's the truth. And it's because I had a lot to say, even at 11 and 12, 13. But yeah, this period that we're heading into, as far as I can tell, what my guides are sharing with me, and just the astrology surrounding it, is pointing to another uprising, another revolutionary type of era that happened in the 60s and 70s. And I feel like the people that grew up in the 90s, or who were active in a lot of the things I've been talking about, people who resonate with gangster rap or Rage Against the Machine or Ani DeFranco or any of the various, because I know I'm listing a lot of different facets of that era, but I was absorbing all of it. Marilyn Manson too. I was absorbing all of it. I just couldn't get enough. Yeah, and it's what created me the way that I am, and it's what created me to lead the collective that I'm leading in the way that it did. And a lot of people that grew up in that same era have a lot of these same files. I almost want to say like activation buttons or something. Like spirit activated us through various media that was around. Musicians that were coming out, popular culture activated us in certain ways that have been dormant, I'm hearing, and are being activated right now. This rebellious spirit is what I'm hearing. A rebellious spirit that was born in the 90s. And mind you, other rebellious spirits were born in other eras, but there was something specific, and everybody knows who was a part of the 90s. It was not like any other era. And of course, it was leading up to the millennium. And I think there was a collective angst around that, and the Y2K scare. And, it was a very mysterious time, is a word that's coming. And I almost feel like we're being given an opportunity to kind of pour over all of that, everything that's led up to now from that point. And it's kind of like the seeds that were planted then are sprouting now. And yeah, there's a rebellion in the works, is what I'm hearing. Wow, I'm getting chills and goosebumps everywhere. There's a rebellion in the works, and I don't think it's going to look anything like what it looked like in the 60s and 70s, because we have the ability to do it virtually now. So much of what is going to happen virtually. It's not going to be the same type of, I'm sure there will be some protests, and, there's always going to be people in the streets when something really horrible happens. But for the most part, I'm really feeling that it's going to be behind the scenes, and that the people that were called into action, that were activated rather, like a seed was planted in them in the 90s, specifically, is going to start sprouting now. And I'm hearing call to action. I had no idea what I was going to deliver with this channeled message. I'm telling you, I had no idea. I asked Spirit to guide me, and this is not what I expected, but it's cool. It's interesting, and it's very powerful, and it's just flooding through me like a current right now, an electrical current. So yeah, some of you might be called to action to share yourself, just the way that, Rage Against the Machine shared, or Ani DeFranco shared, or any of the rap artists that really stepped out of the shadows. And, there was a lot of anger and angst. I'm feeling emotional just remembering and feeling into the collective, especially at that time, because time is an illusion. We can access, especially those of us that are clairsentient, we can access emotions from any decade or era and feel them as if they're happening in real time, because time is an illusion. But yeah, that collective angst, it's almost like we're being given an opportunity to resolve everything that happened then and tie it up in a neat little bow, and also create a legacy for the future generations. And you might also notice that a lot of 90s fashion is back. I've definitely noticed that there are 13-year-olds that are dressing very similar to the way I was dressing when I was 13, and I don't feel like it's any coincidence. There's some sort of cycle that we're tying up right now. And again, I didn't know I was going to say any of this. This is all fresh from Spirit in this moment. So get ready to tie up some loose ends, is what I'm hearing. And don't be afraid if you start feeling really expansive in your desire to rebel or to speak up. And it doesn't have to be rebellion against any particular thing. It could be rebellion against people in your life that have been treating you poorly. You know what I mean? It's about reckoning. It's about justice. A lot of things are coming full circle, I'm hearing. So for whoever this is for, just know that everything you've been through is leading to something. Pay attention to what you're led to right now, what you're guided to do right now, especially internal work, emotional, spiritual work, sharing your gifts, whether they be spiritual gifts or, artistic gifts or whatever. If you're called to start a business or do something that scares you, move to some other country or across the country, this is because you are being pushed into this new era that you started a long time ago. And none of us knows what's going to happen, but it's going to be interesting. It's going to get real interesting. And keep your head on, stay grounded, meditate, pray. And if you want some additional support, I'm happy to work with you as a mentor, as a self-love and empowerment coach, as a tarot reader. And if you just want to support the channel, I'll put all that information in the description box. But either way, I love you. Get ready. Buckle up. I'm hearing. See you next time.